So as we continue on with our two-step review, let's look at two different types of problems that sometimes cause confusion. It's like, what do I do first? So let's read them both together, and then we'll see what are the two strategies in order to solve these two different types of equations. So over here I have x, whatever the variable x, just some number. That's what a variable is. It's just some number that we don't know what it is yet. So x divided by 3, when I add 4 to it, equals 6. Well, then if I come over here and look at this expression, I have x plus 4 is being divided by 3, and that equals 6. So if you notice over here, my division happens first, and then I add 4 to it. Whereas over here, up on top here, I'm having to add 4 to that variable x first before I divide it. So I'm going to have two different ways to solve each one of these problems. So if I go over here, I notice that I have division first, and then I'm adding 4 to it. So what I want to do when I solve this type of problem, where the variable is being divided by a single number, and then I'm adding or subtracting a number to it, I want to start by dealing with that addition or subtraction. In this case, it's addition. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. So I'm going to subtract 4 from this side and this side. Remember, if I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other, so I'm going to keep it equal. Remember, I'm trying to unpack this 6 to find out what the variable x is. So when I subtract 4 from both sides, 6 minus 4 is 2, so I'm just going to simply write the result of that. And then I'm going to bring down this x divided by 3. So there's my first step. I dealt with the addition and subtraction first. And now I simply have x divided by 3 equals 2. So remember, we do inverse operations. So if x is being divided by 3, the way I can do the inverse operation is to do multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides by the denominator. In this case, it's 3. So I'm multiplying both sides by 3. What that does right here, that simplifies that to 1. That allows me to bring that x down by itself. So I have x equals, and then 2 times 3 is 6. So my solution for this one is 6, and I can check my answer. If I substitute 6 in for x, 6 divided by 3 is 2, 2 plus 4 is 6, and 6 equals 6. So if you notice here, x was being divided by 3, and then we were adding 4 to it. I want to deal with that addition or subtraction first, and then my last step is to multiply by the denominator. Well, on this side, we have a total different process going on here. The first thing that is happening is I'm having x, I'm adding 4 to it. Think of it like if it's inside parentheses. So if I was doing PEMDAS, I would have to do this up here first before I divide it. So what I want to do to work backwards is the first thing I'm going to do is multiply by the denominator. Notice, everything up here is being divided by 3. So in order to do the inverse operation, my first step is to multiply both sides by 3. That way I can get rid of that denominator. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. Remember, if I do it to one side, I have to do it to the other. I want to keep that balance. I want to keep it equal. And just like over here, that simplifies the 1. That allows me to bring that numerator down. I just bring the x plus 4 down. And then 6 times 3 is 18. So there's my first step. And notice, now it's just a simple one-step equation. Some number, which is x, plus 4 equals 18. So I'm going to get rid of that addition there. I'm going to do the inverse operation. So instead of adding 4, I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. Remember, I'm trying to work backwards. That goes to 0. Now I'm left with x by itself. 18 minus 4 is 14. That's my final solution. And I can check that answer. 14, if I substitute it in for x, 14 plus 4 is 18. 18 divided by 3 is indeed 6. So notice, I have two different ways where division is being represented in these two different expressions. Over here, the variable is being divided by 3, and then we're adding something to it. So I started off by dealing with addition and subtraction first, and then multiplying. Over on this example, everything was being divided by 3 on this side. So the very first step was to get rid of that division. And the way I did that was the inverse operation of multiplying both sides by the denominator. That allowed me to bring the numerator down by itself. And then I dealt with my addition and subtraction, did the inverse operation. I subtracted 4 from both sides and got my final answer. So here's an example of 2 different ways you may see division and how to deal with it when you're solving a 2-step equation.